Part 84. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 834. In this case, I will be disrespectful hearing the other party being so pregnant, Jia Yan said with affection. But at the same time, he was secretly estimating the level of strength he wanted to display. If I defeat this hypocrite easily, I will go too far. Even the powerful ones will think that I threaten their status. But if I don't defeat, my importance in this force will be reduced a lot. Then, let's win this battle with hard work. After Jia Yan made his analysis, he took action directly. The opponent thought it was impossible for Jia Yan to win, and Jia Yan also thought it was impossible for the opponent to win. Good boy, this is a beautiful move. The being named Pai Pu Shishi's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw Jia Yan's attacking front foot. Then he flashed his feet and used a counter-attack. When Jia Yan attacked with his front foot, he could have cut off one of the opponent's legs directly, but when it hit, he dodged it in an instant. What a powerful attack, but I have more than one foot. Let me show you. The more than 100 remaining legs of Pai Pusi were like countless tentacles swarming towards Jia Yan's location. But at the same time as these feet came in, Jia Yan's body suddenly entered the subspace. Huh? It's actually a talent that can travel through subspaces. Not bad Pai Paiasi Shiyuki, but he didn't show any surprise. In this genius battlefield, there are all kinds of talents. As a popular talent, space talent has many people who can travel through space. Of course, it is not possible for all space talent experts to be able to travel through space. This talent is rare. But now there's nothing surprising about it. Snort. Jia Yan snorted coldly and thrust out one of his front legs in the subspace. He is now becoming more and more proficient in the ability to travel through space. Originally, he could not accurately control the distance when traveling through subspace, and it was impossible to travel dozens or hundreds of kilometers in a small step. And this stab came out right from the back of Napi Sudoshi. I feel space fluctuations. It's not that easy to sneak attack me. Pai Pusi suddenly dodged and avoided Jia Yan's sneak attack. Although Jia Yan was a little reluctant, he still felt that his ability to travel through time was no longer a great advantage in the genius battlefield. However, he still had no idea of increasing his strength. Instead, he played steadily and used his strength on his opponent with every move. In the space, rays of light attacking each other flashed up. The two sides actually fought evenly. What an amazing newcomer. His name is Jia Yan, right? He can actually tie with the top players among our more than 200 venerables. It's simply amazing. This is still a newcomer. Have you forgotten that every newcomer will have a period of explosive growth in the genius battlefield? His strength may not even be able to deal with him after a while. By the way, his name is Jia Yan, right? Not bad, really good. Maybe our Wuxi force will produce a middle to upper level genius. The beings from Wuxi's forces were all talking about it, and they seemed to be optimistic about Jia Yan's strength. Of course, the strong men on the other side also had the same idea. This Jia Yan actually has such strength. Have you investigated his origins? I asked about it. It is said that he came from a small place on the side of the Losai Empire, called the Northern Star region, and his huge ship seems to be junk picked up from some ruins. This kind of existence does not exist at all. It may be an undercover agent from other forces. Several powerful people from the second pass were also a little surprised by Jia Yan's strength. In the genius battlefield, there are also differences between geniuses. Most powerful geniuses go to powerful forces. Not only can they get more resources in those forces, but they also have the guidance of seniors who are also geniuses. This is a good thing that cannot be exchanged for any favors. In their opinion, the origin of Jia Yan is very simple. He has never even come into contact with other forces before. They will be very disappointed if they cannot catch such a genius. It seems that Jia Yan is about to gain the upper hand. Well done, it seems that our Wu Ci force is about to produce a genius who can be considered above average in the field of geniuses. A rank-level expert was extremely excited. Don't underestimate the middle and upper-level geniuses. There really wasn't even one among them in Wu Ci's force. Wu Ci's force is originally a weak force, and the shadow of the empire behind it is very serious. Geniuses from outside do not like to join forces with the shadow of the empire, so most of the geniuses here are geniuses from the empire, and the restrictions are very high. It has been a long time since one came a genius above average. To put it bluntly, this Wu Ci force is a combination of the geniuses of the two empires. One is the distant star empire called Wu State, and the other is the Losai empire that Jia Yan knows. The strength of the two empires was mediocre, and they didn't have many geniuses, so they united in the genius battlefield to find a place to stay. The appearance of Jia Yan made the Wu Ci forces jealous. In particular, his origins are in line with their thoughts. Geographically speaking, the northern star region is also the sphere of influence of the Losai Empire, and it can be regarded as rooted in Miaohong. Jia Yan and Pai Puxi exchanged blows again and again. After that, Jia Yan's physical advantage gradually became apparent, and Pai Puxi she gradually became exhausted and fell into a disadvantage. Well done. At a certain moment, Jia Yan hit Pai Puxi's head with a blow. The other party staggered suddenly. Okay, I declare Jia Yan the winner. Napi Sudoshi wanted to fight again, but a powerful person from the second level didn't want to watch anymore and flew out to announce the result. Everyone knows that Pai Puxi's physical strength is not as good as Jia Yan's, and any further fight will only take a while. Concession, Jia Yan said lightly to the Pai Shi, as if his physical strength was still very strong at this time. Of course, Jia Yan's strength has not been fully utilized, and he still has a lot of physical fitness. Okay. We have another talented general in Wu Ci's force, Jia Yan, work hard, and ask me if you don't understand anything. The strong man who flew out was a big red-skinned pig monster. He seemed to value Jia Yan very much and praised Jia Yan very much. What are you talking about? I was the first to greet Jia Yan. If you want to ask, come and ask me. Another monster that looked like a long snake flew up to Jia Yan and kept praising him. These two people are the two top national figures in Wu Ci's power. The former is a powerful member of the Pig Clan royal family of the Luo Ci Empire, and the other is a powerful member of the Wu Kingdom. Jia Yan just smiled and didn't express any opinion. The reason why he is favored by the strong men of the two major sublevels, and he is neither humble nor arrogant, is that he is not necessarily weaker than the strong men of these sublevels. When Jia Yan was negotiating with a group of strong men, he did not know that in the star, where the half-star genius strong man who seemed to be in seclusion was located, a terrifying existence slightly released his power, observed this battle scene. Haha, Jia Yan? He actually concealed his strength. The light in this strong man's eyes flashed several times. No one knew what he was thinking. The existence in the genius battlefield is so terrifying that even Jia Yan's self-concealed method of concealing his strength cannot hide it from the eyes and ears of a semi-star level powerhouse. But the other party didn't do anything, but just watched Jia Yan silently without anyone knowing. As soon as Jia Yan came to Wu Ci's force, he had a wonderful performance and proved his strength. But compared to him, the Pig Prince of the Losai Empire did not have such good luck. Although he is a member of the Losai Empire royal family and does not need to prove his strength to live in this power, he cannot escape the steps he must go through. The result is that he, a high-level starry sky level, was beaten by a venerable to look like a pig's head. Of course, he was originally a pig's head. It should be said that the original pig's head became twice as big, which was not easy to use. My head seems to be getting stupider. Brother. Do you think that guy looked down on me too much? He said that he didn't beat me because of your face. It's too much to go to Shiyuan. It seems that I have to practice hard. And I'm even stronger than him, I won't give up until I fight back. Jia Yan practiced silently in the space he was assigned, but he was very impatient when he heard the complaints from the prince of the Losai Empire. Okay, brother Jingluo, if you want to practice, go ahead and waste your time here. Others are getting stronger and stronger, and you will never be able to keep up. Jia Yan finally couldn't help it anymore and said to him. Oh, yes, that's the truth. I'll go right now. Oh, brother, you should work hard. Look at you, you're already practicing. I'll go. Jingluo staggered and rolled, running towards his living area. Even though he seemed to be seriously injured, his skin was rough and fleshy, and he didn't seem to be injured at all. Jia Yan smiled, and then wanted to think about some issues about his strength. Don't think that the powerful ones in the universe don't need to practice. But this kind of cultivation is very different from the cultivation that people on Earth understand. In fact, most of the cultivation of the strong people in the universe is still focused on thinking, such as how to strengthen their bodies, and which parts should be mainly strengthened, and if this part is strengthened, there will be what are the benefits, what effect will this benefit have when killing enemies, and what effects will this effect have. Wait, there are a lot of things to think about. In fact, it is impossible for any strong person to come up with a huge strong system out of thin air. Even Jia Yan cultivates on the system of the strong civilization of the entire galaxy, otherwise give him 100 million years, and it is impossible for one person to come up with such a huge system and fighting method out of thin air. And just when Jia Yan persuaded Na Jingluo to leave and wanted to think about the battles he had experienced in the past few days. Jia Yan, my name is Bai Wangfu, can you come to my place? A very low voice reached Jia Yan's tentacle ears. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 835. Male sign. Jia Yan, who was thinking quietly, suddenly shook his whole body when he heard this voice. Although the other party did not use any deliberate pressure, the extremely ordinary brainwave power transmission also contained a sense of power that made his heart beat wildly. This is a semi-star level powerhouse. After a sudden thought, his thoughts were racing, and he immediately knew who the other party was. This Wu Ci is the only one with a semi-star level powerhouse. After Jia Yan's heart sank, he didn't have many other ideas. In the outside world, his strength is at most not much different from that of a half-star level expert. A more powerful person might be tortured, but in this genius battlefield, it is impossible for him to defeat a half-star level genius. Okay, senior, I'll be there right away. Jia Yan nodded and left his room. The entire artificial star is large enough, especially it is divided into many layers, and only one strong person lives in the central area. This is the only semi-star level powerhouse in the entire Wu Ci force by Huangfu. Jia Yan came to this area. Miraculously, the strong men who came along the way didn't say anything, and they were not surprised how Jia Yan could get such a semi-star level invitation. Senior, I'm here. Jia Yan whispered outside the gate of the central area. Come in, a voice came from inside. Jia Yan gently opened the door with his front feet. As soon as I opened the door, I felt a strong pressure that I had never seen before. Of course, there is still a huge gap with the star level, but except for the 2 star levels that Jia Yan has seen, there is no other strong person who can compare with them. In the center of the area, a centipede-like monster was lying quietly on the ground. His body reached a length of nearly half a kilometer, and he had the aura of a distant wild beast that made anyone who saw him feel suffocated involuntarily. He is better than Huangfu. Hello, senior, I wonder if you have any advice, senior. Jia Yan lowered his head. He knew that even if he exerted his full strength, he might not be able to defeat this semi-star level player. Jia Yan, your actual age is probably much younger than the information says. The centipede monster raised its head lightly, but this was the first sentence it said. At this time, Jia Yan's mind was spinning extremely fast. He didn't know what this strong man wanted to do, and the opponent's strength was completely capable of crushing him. Although Jia Yan was sure that he could defeat the opponent's strength, he barely managed to save his life under the attack. The lovely Disha was still on the planet, and he didn't want to cause any friction with the opponent. Yes, there is something wrong with the brain at the entrance to the genius battlefield. I am indeed a little younger than the data says, but the difference is not big. Jia Yan said this after thinking for a few times. Very good. Bai Wangfu just nodded lightly, then moved his body and slowly stood up. His huge body almost occupies the entire space. Jia Yan, I know that you are hiding your strength, and I also know that your talent is definitely more than that. But you don't have to worry. In the genius battlefield, jealous suppression of geniuses is despised, and I don't have this idea either. Rather, I'm very happy that you showed up. Bai Wangfu said calmly. Jia Yan's eyes were full of brilliance, but he didn't interrupt the other party's words, he just thought wildly in his heart. It turns out that the opponent can see and eat hidden strength. Jia Yan was a little surprised in his heart, but he quickly figured it out. The stronger the strong man is, the more he can see the disguise of the weak. This is not because Jia Yan's disguise is not strong enough, but because the opponent's strength is too much beyond his. Jia Yan, you know that there is allocation of resources in genius battlefield, and the process and details involved are far from being explained in 1 or 2 sentences. Let me tell you this, our Wu Ci force there is a group of opponents, and there will be a competition next month. I just can't find a trustworthy representative of His Holiness. I wonder if you are willing to compete on behalf of my Wu Ci force? Of course, you can get 20% of the reward alone. Award. The strange light in Jia Yan's eyes flashed again, and then he didn't resist much, but nodded. Senior, if there is any use for this junior, just give the order. Jia Yan is willing to help Wu Ci contribute some of your strength. Very good, then you can go with me next month, but you have to understand that this game is not a simple game. People may die, so be prepared. Okay. Jia Yan walked out of Naba Wangfu's room with a slight chill in his heart. He felt just now that if he said something he didn't want to say, the other person might become furious. And Jia Yan himself also wanted to see what the competition in this so-called genius battlefield was like. As far as I know, competitions in the genius battlefield are also a way to improve their strength, and most powerful people can learn more fighting methods through such competitions. After all, after reaching the level of venerable or above, the fighting of strong men is not just about fixed moves that can deal with all forms. They must go through countless actual battles before they can become more mature. Jia Yan's only goal in the genius battlefield is to become stronger, and he must go to this competition. As far as I know, competitions in the genius battlefield are divided into those held by the forces themselves, and those held by the official. The other is formal challenges between individuals. And what Bai Wangfu said is that it is organized by the forces themselves. That kind of thing. Jia Yan fell silent in his room. There are many things that can be obtained in this genius battlefield. In addition to more advanced technologies on the internet, there are also clever strong words, plus paper cheats, etc., and Jia Yan has purchased many through the internet and various channels. Although he may not necessarily use other people's training methods and moves experience, learning from them is also a good way to learn. By reading books and materials, he also gained a lot of valuable combat experience and theories. And everything changed in this tiny environment. Jia Yan came to the genius battlefield, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. In this month, he has made great progress. Not only has the strength of the venerable level been stabilized, it seems that through the difference in energy in the surrounding universe, it has also faintly improved. Of course, This kind of improvement is not so great that it can be easily observed, but that he has become more mature. If you insist on comparing strength, Jia Yan can guarantee that his strength can now deal with the person who was a month ago. As for myself, it's hard to say whether it will be a tragic victory or a great victory. There are two more treasures I have now. In this genius battlefield, maybe there are some comparable powerful things. Then I will exchange them for things that I can use in the future. In this case, the strength may be able to become stronger indirectly. In 1 month, Jia Yan's understanding of the genius battlefield has become deeper. In this genius battlefield, there are some geniuses who are just like Jia Yan. They seem to have extremely special talents and births. Their strength may be even more powerful than Jia Yan. In what Edisha said, Jia Yan's current strength can't even defeat the top genius creatures. Master, you have practiced for 3 full days this time. Don't worry about those top experts. You are younger than them. Your current progress rate is the only one I have ever seen in my life. You will definitely be able to catch up with them in the future. When Edisha saw Jia Yan's awakening this time, she jumped forward to flatter him again. You were born in front of me, how many strong men have you seen? Jia Yan smiled. Huh? There's a communication coming. When Edisha wanted to argue something again, Jia Yan felt a communication prompt from his communicator. After opening the communicator, Nabi Harao's avatar popped out. Jia Yan, 1 month is up, you can follow me and set off later, Bai Wangfu said to Jia Yan. Okay. Jia Yan was not surprised or anything, after all, this was something that had been decided long ago. On the contrary, in his mind, he seemed to be somewhat interested in the upcoming power competition. After all, this is the first power competition he has participated in, and he also knows that this kind of competition has official points added. When the time comes to use the points, he can actually get benefits. How could this not make him excited? Not long after, Jia Yan and Bai Wangfu appeared on the large port on the side of the artificial star. Parked here is a nearly 10-kilometer large battleship, a little smaller than the Edissa, but the configuration on it is much more powerful than the current Edissa. Just under the battleship, a small group of waiting powerful creatures met Jia Yan and Bai Wangfu. Isn't this the new guy? Why is he here too? Could it be that he was allowed to see the world in the past? After all, this newcomer has great potential. Maybe he can also participate in the war on behalf of my Wuci forces in the future. When the waiting strong creatures saw Jia Yan and Bai Wangfu appearing together, they are a little surprised. Okay, let me introduce it now. Aren't you worried that there is no candidate for the last spot of this venerable? Now I will announce that Jia Yan is the last player of our venerable level. Bai Wangfu saw that all the creatures were a little strange about Jia Yan beside him, so he stepped out of the crowd and said to the surrounding creatures. How can he be the venerable representative of our Wuci force? A strong man walked out of the team angrily. It could be seen that he was not that afraid of the semi-star existence of Huangfu. Why is it not working? Is Jia Yan much weaker than you? Bai Wangfu was not angry, but asked instead. One sentence suppressed the strong man's words. Jia Yan's battle that day was witnessed by the group of venerables. If they were to fight Jia Yan, they didn't have much confidence. Jia Yan is just a newcomer. We have no precedent for newcomers to join the battle. Another strong man also came out and looked at Bai Wangfu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 836. Moiwan Literature Network. For more information, please log in to the unique address of Moiwan Literature Network, mobile reading login. Welcome your visit /U003E/U003E/U003E. Who stipulates that newcomers cannot participate on behalf of Wuci's forces? There is no precedent, and we will make this precedent this time. Bai Huangfu looked at the venerable and said with some discomfort. At this moment, no one in the entire team spoke. Jia Yan is strong enough to at least ensure that he will not lose face to Wu Xi's forces in participating in the past, and if they object again, they will really anger Bai Huangfu. Although they didn't show much respect to Huangfu, who was a semi-star, because he had just been promoted to the semi-star level not long ago, so they seemed a bit casual, but if they really offended him, they would just wait for revenge later. Jia Yan, I don't agree with you. Who knows how you won that fight? A venerable man came to Jia Yan and said with some disdain in his eyes. Jia Yan just looked at him without saying anything or getting angry. A group of people boarded the ship, and even Bai Huangfu also boarded the ship. This Shili-class ship is indeed extraordinary. The area Jia Yan saw alone seemed to be better than the Aditha. Of course, the Aditha was used as a carry back then, and the equipment in it was generally normal. Its actual capabilities have not been reflected yet. Jia Yan, we know each other. I am the venerable level captain leading this team, and my name is Hu Li. A being over 100 meters tall who looked very similar to a tiger came to Jia Yan and spoke affectionately. My name is Jia Yan. Nice to meet you. Jia Yan also expressed his intention to talk. After the two chatted for some time, the tiger monster and Jia Yan said softly, you are a newcomer. Those venerables are a little unhappy that you can join our team, just because everyone has paid a lot to join. They just don't understand if I join casually, there's not much malice. I see, I understand. Jia Yan nodded. After a conversation to resolve the grudges, Hu Li left. Jia Yan found a room by himself and moved in. For him, he has long been accustomed to sailing alone in the universe. Now there are just some insignificant creatures around him. He is still continuing his practice. I don't know if Jia Yan is arrogant, but he is willing to go out in this ship. Maybe they think they are geniuses and don't bother to be with us. Huh, genius. When he gets to the competition field, he may be affected by someone else's fate. Don't think that we will save him when the time comes. From time to time, when Jia Yan was in the room, he could hear the contestants at the venerable level speaking coldly to him. They also knew that the venerable level contestants could easily hear the ship's conversation and deliberately say things to annoy Jia Yan. But Jia Yan just shook his head, and then simply shut down his senses, not listening or bothering. And this huge spaceship started to drive slowly, and then moved forward in the universe at a very slow speed. Especially when it accelerated, Jia Yan could clearly feel that it was accelerating in hyperspace, which is what the legend said. The warp engine accelerates. This speed, coupled with the shortened distance of the distorted space, the forward speed is not slow at all, not much different from the Edissa. Only then did Jia Yan realize that everyone was so surprised that he was driving the Edissa. The speed of the ship was very fast. After more than half a month, it passed through patches of starry sky and came to a place that seemed to be a larger force than Wu Xi's force. Huh! In this area, Jia Yan let out a little surprise. It turned out that in the star field of this force, he saw ordinary ships. Although they were still a little more advanced than the ships in the northern star field, they were not too many. What surprised Jia Yan the most was that these ships were all creatures that were less than the venerable level, and there were even some that were at the heaven level. Master, I have told you a long time ago. There are still some ordinary beings in the genius realm, but their fate is very bad. After being born in this genius realm, for some reason they cannot be promoted to venerables. They can be below the starry sky level, so that they are all treated as slaves by various forces. They are kept in captivity like slaves. Like the light and shadow monster back then, Edisha left the Edisha and followed Jia Yan. At this moment, she jumped out to explain to Jia Yan. Oh, it turns out to be native life. Jia Yan nodded. The ship continued to fly within the star field of this force for about a day, and finally saw an artificial star about 1,000 miles away. This star is more powerful than the Wu-Ci force where Jia Yan and the others are, especially the aura of the leader, which completely exceeds the Wu-Ci force. There are actually 2.5 star level, plus 15 sub-level ones. Jia Yan also felt that in this star, there were several other semi-star level people who did not seem to exist like this force, as well as more than 100 sub-level passers from other forces. On the small star, so many geniuses gathered in one go, which made Jia Yan feel more stressed. Haha, Bai Wangfu, you are finally here. It seems that your back area is still too far away from us, otherwise why would you be late every time? A person with a semi-star level existence flew out of the star, emitting a terrifying pressure while flying. The venerable level creatures in the ship here all made noises of being unable to bear the pressure, which shows how terrifying this semi-star level creature is. Jia Yan also felt this pressure, but although he thought he could not fight the opponent, he could not be suppressed by the opponent's momentum alone. You know, he has survived for a long time under real stellar level pressure. That person originally wanted to give the Wu-Ci forces here a show of strength, but when they felt that under their own pressure, there was actually a respected person from the Wu-Ci forces who didn't feel the slightest pain, they were suddenly a little surprised. Stand up. Humph. You, Tiancheng, actually attack the juniors of my power directly. You simply don't take Wu-Ci's power seriously. Just when this person was a little surprised, Nabi Huangfu, who was in Wu-Ci's force, let out a somewhat sullen voice, and then an equally large half-star level brain power struck out hard, completely crushing the opponent's power. Broken. However, comparing the two, the other party's brain power was used at will, while Arabifu's power was almost at full strength. In comparison, there seemed to be a huge gap. Haha, Arabif, don't be angry. When the Era King in your force was here, I always played games with him like this. It's just that your strength is far behind him and you can't bear it. Okay. Well, don't be angry, you are still too young. Naer Tiancheng withdrew his power and laughed loudly, come and welcome our forces. My destiny is destiny. Today is the time for the geniuses in this region. You all welcome me. King Huangluo. Jia Yan was on the ship, chewing on the name. Master, I downloaded this wild biff. It turned out to be the backbone of Wu-Ci's force, but 2 years ago, he was attacked by 2 mid-level forces and died outside. And this wild biff is my younger brother. When I heard about the cause of my brother's death, I worked hard and achieved half-star level directly from the venerable, becoming the new pillar of Wu-Ci's power. Otherwise, Wu-Ci's power would have been destroyed long ago. Edisha jumped out and showed off her knowledge to Jia Yan. Did he just achieve semi-star level? No wonder he is so much weaker than his opponent. Jia Yan was a little surprised. Arabifu had just reached the half-star level and was able to pose a great threat to him. As for the half-star level of the suppression ship just now, Jia Yan felt that he was able to escape from the opponent's hands, which was considered extremely remarkable. It can be seen that he still underestimated the half-star strength in the genius field. No wonder, in this genius realm, star-level geniuses with limited strength are sometimes besieged to death by half-star level geniuses. It turns out that they are too much higher than the half-star level geniuses in the outside world, otherwise they would be impossible to kill no matter what. It's so damn stellar. This was an eye-opener for Jia Yan. As he continued to conceive, the ship he was on slowly approached the artificial star thousands of miles away. Disembark. You have all seen the scene just now. Look for the geniuses in the sector from Shuyuan this time. These forces are absolutely uneasy and kind to my Wu-Ci forces. Please wake up and don't die. When the ship stopped at the port, Bai Wangfu's voice reached the auditory organs of the entire crew. Jia Yan adjusted his posture slightly, and when he saw the scene just now, he understood that this competition would not be that simple. Maybe many of these forces are coveting the Wu-Ci force, which has suffered a huge loss in strength. The geniuses in this star area originate from the Urshan force in front of us. About 20 or so genius forces from the surrounding areas will participate. Wu-Ci's force has always been the weakest among all the forces, but there are clear regulations in this star area. They can't attack each other, but work together to fight against the genius forces from the outside world. They can't annex Wu-Ci's forces clearly. As long as they are dead, then Huangfu, they can take Wu-Ci's forces because they don't have half-star level people. Annexation. As early as in Wu-Ci's influence, Jia Yan had slowly learned about these scenes through understanding and oral narration from others. But he didn't expect that things would be so serious. That's all. In order to maintain this temporary foothold, I will also provide some strength to Wu-Ci's forces at the level of Venerable. Jia Yan understands the truth of Chundejihan. His strength cannot resist so many semi-stars, but at least at the Venerable level, he can still do it with the momentum of Wu-Ci's forces. Of course, during this period, I have to be careful not to reveal too much of my true strength, so as not to arouse the fear of other forces. That would be a recipe for death. While thinking about how to balance his performance, Jia Yan followed Wu-Ci's forces and lined up into the artificial star. Come and read the genuine version, thank you. For more information, please log in to the unique address of Moiwan Literature Network, mobile phone reading login. Welcome your visit. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 837. Here we are, this is the contestants' room. Jia Yan, your strength is considered to be the strongest among all the venerable levels. I will give you a room of your own. Work hard for me. Come on. Bai Wangfu personally followed Jia Yan to a certain room in the star, and then told him the password of the brainwave power key channel in this room. In this genius battlefield, the strong ones are all powerful, so the key to this brainwave power requires extremely terrifying brainwave power to open. Of course Jia Yan can also open it. After thanking Bai Wangfu, Jia Yan sent him away and closed the door of the room. The player's room is not that good, it's just a small space. It seems that the status of this Wu-Ci force in this genius battlefield is not too high. Jia Yan shook his head. Although he had known this for a long time, he was still a little surprised when he actually saw it. I don't need to think so much. My current strength is a bit more difficult than that of a half-star like Huangfu. Even if I want to do something, it's impossible. Jia Yan pondered for a while. He decided to help the Wu-Ci forces because he understood that his strength was not that strong in this genius battlefield. If he wanted to protect himself, he could only temporarily attach himself to someone. Power. And this Wu-Ci force is just right. If I join a big force, then I will have fewer opportunities to get ahead. In this Wu-Ci force, as long as I use a certain amount of strength, I can get more resources, and at least on the surface, this force doesn't pose a great threat to me. Even if I can't defeat Huangfu, I should still be able to escape. This eliminates the risk of falling out. Jia Yan was immersed in his heart and thought a lot. Then he secretly took a breath, tried to calm down his mind, and entered a state of conceiving his own moves and perfecting his combat effectiveness. And this practice lasted for a long time. Jia Yan, come out. At a certain moment, Jia Yan suddenly felt a powerful brainwave power sound. Have you started? Jia Yan could clearly hear that this was Bai Wangfu's voice. He had already been prepared to be called at any time and was not disturbed too much. He stood up slowly. Come outside the door, follow the long corridor, and enter the temporary gathering place of Wu-Ci's forces. Some of the powerful creatures have arrived, while others have not yet arrived. When the powerful creatures from Wu-Ci's forces saw Jia Yan's arrival, their expressions changed. It turned out that in their opinion, Jia Yan had taken a break and become stronger again. This scene happened almost every once in a while after Jia Yan came to Wu Xi's force. Everyone collapsed because Jia Yan's progress was too fast. Of course, Jia Yan's rest this time was not a sudden breakthrough, he just figured out some problems. This is also one of the wonderful energy effects of the genius battlefield. In this star field, he felt that his mind was flexible. Of course, the same is true for other creatures, but whether Jia Yan is so defiant is unknown. Jia Yan, you're here too, come and stand in front. As the strongest member of Wu Xi's forces, Bai Wangfu didn't have any airs. When he saw Jia Yan coming, the light in his eyes flashed and he asked Jia Yan to stand in front. This is not just a matter of standing position, but the position in front is where the strong men of the second pass are. If Jia Yan is arranged there, wouldn't it mean that Jia Yan has the same status as the strong men of the second pass? A genius with a high rank felt a little uncomfortable, but they only looked at Jia Yan unhappily and did not directly contradict Bai Huangfu. During this time, Bai Wangfu has always looked at Jia Yan differently, and everyone can see this. The strong men in these times thought it didn't matter, but now Bai Wangfu seems to have let Jia Yan's status threaten them, so they can't help but feel this. The beings are a little unhappy with Jia Yan. Okay. Jia Yan just had a twinkle in his eyes and then stepped forward. Come to me. Bai Wangfu was so calm that he asked Jia Yan to stand next to him. Originally, only the strongest person in the second level after him could stand. Bai Wangfu, are you wrong? Jia Yan is powerful, but do you think he can compare with us? You even let him stand by your side, do you still think like a venerable person now? A strong man from the second level finally couldn't bear it anymore and looked at Bai Wangfu coldly. Oh? Chindan, could it be that after all this time, you still look down on me? A sinister look flashed in Bai Wangfu's eyes, and then he looked at the second level powerhouse who spoke, and said somewhat unhappily. Haha, how dare I look down on you? The strong man actually showed an expression of looking down on Bai Wangfu. He said he didn't dare, but he definitely didn't think so in his heart. Jia Yan's eyes flashed, and he immediately thought of the reason. Although Bai Wangfu is currently the #1 expert in Wu Xi's force, he has been promoted directly from the venerable to the semi-star level. Just like the levels in the outside world, he has not passed through the second level of the strong level and wants to be promoted to the star level. The chance of a strong person being strong is countless times lower than that of a strong person in the second level. That's why those strong people in the second level have such disdain for him. Even if they are not strong enough, they will still feel that Bai Wangfu is inferior to them. Okay, since you don't look down on me, then just do as I say, Bai Wangfu said calmly. Jia Yan came to his side, and then the eyes around him were a little hostile to Jia Yan. But he didn't care at all. He had been hostile to himself and misunderstood his existence too many times. Now everyone was stepped on by Jia Yan, and he didn't know how many died. He didn't care about the many times he had to lock the powerful. Jia Yan, the battle at the venerable level will depend on you later, Bai Wangfu said as if he was pointing. I will. Jia Yan nodded. Although the strength of these two powerful men was somewhat different, Jia Yan understood that the other party had vaguely seen through his hidden strength. A group of Wu Xi forces formed a line and headed towards the outside world. Jia Yan, you are valued by Bai Wangfu, but we are not convinced by you. I hope you can show the strength to convince us later. Otherwise, even if Bai Wangfu takes care of you, you will definitely not be able to gain a foothold in Wu Xi's power. Land. A strong man from Sichuan came to Jia Yan and said lightly. Jia Yan looked back at him. The other person was the prisoner who greeted him that day. Jia Yan remembered that he had objected to his joining Wu Xi's forces. I will do it. I hope you seniors at the next level will also succeed, Jia Yan echoed with a hint of ridicule. You, Guan Qiang's words were stagnant this time, and then he stopped talking with a cold look in his eyes. The reason is none other than that they, a group of powerful people from the secondary level, have lost several times in a row, and the losses were extremely ugly. The words Jia Yan said were like stabbing their hearts. They couldn't win themselves, so why let Jia Yan win? Regardless of whether Jia Yan would provoke these powerful people from the next level, as he thought, the strength between him and these powerful people at the second level would be at best between them, unless they join forces to deal with him. Otherwise he really has nothing to be afraid of. A group of strong men followed by Wangfu in front and walked towards an open area of the star. This piece of metal land was completely cleared out and turned into a flat area, and around this area, there were circles of viewing platforms. The overall look was like a Roman arena in ancient Greece on Earth. In this area, there are already countless people, as well as some powerful people from the outside world, who have bought tickets and are watching the battle. The damn Russian forces have stolen such a huge amount of tourism revenue again. A distinguished person murmured in a low voice, making Jia Yan understand that this so-called genius battle in the sector also requires the support of the audience. The number of viewers around them reached nearly 1 million, and some were like online TV stations. They spread this picture to an unknown number of places. This was also a considerable income, and they were fighting like clowns. Or, there is not even a cent of appearance fee, so the venerable Wu Ci force will complain. Haha, fellow geniuses and the audience who have come to participate in this grand event, this year's 215th District Genius Battle has begun again. Let's take a look. There are 20 familiar teams again. It's a familiar name, everyone has started competing again for the name of the strongest genius in this region. The genius event in Sector 215 begins again. The well-known commentators from various radio stations or online broadcasts are working hard to explain. Seeing this somewhat familiar scene, Jia Yan shook his head. He understood that information is a vital thing in every living thing, so it is normal to see similar scenes in any star field. Pole. Teams of strong men walked onto the ground platform with various expressions, and the broadcast cameras of each family were also aimed at them. These are the powerful men of the Urshan force. Look, the team is led by a local semi-star powerhouse and one of the founders of our Urshan force, Master Er Tiancheng. When the Urshan forces entered the field, the cheers in the entire field were extremely loud, as if even the sky of the artificial star was about to be torn down. When Jia Yan's Wu Ci force entered the arena, every audience member either booed or burst into laughter, revealing the status of this Wu Ci force in this competition. Feeling the contemptuous looks from everyone around him, Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. He had heard Jingluo, the prince of Lusai Empire, say that his cousin's power was a small force in the genius battlefield, but now he really felt it. This small force is uncomfortable. Of course, this is not enough to sway Jia Yan. Just laugh at him. He has no sense of belonging to Wu Ci's forces. When the teams arrived at the center of the battlefield, the host on the stage, who was also a semi-stellar powerhouse in the Urshan force, announced loudly. Viewers, cheer, applaud, this year's 215th District Genius Competition begins. Wow! The entire audience stage was driven by the atmosphere and became noisy. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 838. As usual, this genius battle will start with a venerable level battle, then a next level strongman battle, and finally a semi-star level battle. And the rules are the same as usual. In the battle, unless you admit defeat or die, otherwise the fighting will not stop. The rules of the genius battle are different from those of outside competitions. There is no life or death limit. Jia Yan felt that these rules were indeed the rules of the genius battlefield, and he felt a little pressure in his heart. If he were at the level of a venerable, he believed that it would not be so easy to meet someone who could fight with him. Okay, Jia Yan, you have also seen that I have great trust in you. Now I don't ask too much of you. Among these dozens of forces, there are more than 500 powerful ones at the venerable level. You just need to give me rank 20, my criticism will be valuable, don't live up to my expectations, do you understand? Jia Yan was listening to the rules when a familiar voice came to his ears. This voice belongs to Bai Huangfu. It seems that he is still a little worried about Jia Yan. I understand, Jia Yan nodded. Bai Huangfu was on the other side. After looking at Jia Yan, he took a long breath. He knew that his position in Wu Xi's force was not very stable, so he urgently needed an opportunity to prove his reputation. As he thought, among the semi-star geniuses, his strength was probably not able to stand out. Well, the genius who was originally promoted from the venerable to the semi-star level is a little weaker than the geniuses of the same level. In addition, he has only been promoted for 2 years, so there is no way to deal with the weakness of his strength. So he took a fancy to Jia Yan. In fact, he didn't know how strong Jia Yan was, but after feeling that he was suppressing his own strength, he understood that his chance to prove himself fell on Jia Yan. I hope he can enter the top 20. If he does, our ranking of powerful venerables will not be too weak. Among the 20 forces, it was only natural for one of their Wu Ci forces to enter the top 20, but in fact, after participating in dozens of 215 sector genius competitions, Wu Ci's forces had not yet achieved anything in the top 20. Honor, the best result at the venerable level, only a few decades ago a venerable got the 50th place. Okay, now the venerable level genius battle is about to begin. Those who don't have tickets will make up for the tickets, and the radio stations that don't have broadcast rights will pay me, otherwise they will be killed. The half-star level host was cheerfully hosting on the high platform, making a group of audience laugh. Jia Yan really doesn't know what the joke is. Maybe this is caused by the different cultures in the star territory. But he didn't have a chance to think too much, the battle between the lords had already begun. Jia Yan, there will be a team battle and an individual battle later. If you want to retain your strength for the individual battle, I will not arrange for you to join the team. What do you think? A venerable came to Jia Yan. He was the centipede monster that Jia Yan had fought with. Jia Yan remembered that he was appointed as the captain of the venerable level, and he also arranged the team members. The so-called team battle is just another name for team battle. Each force sends 10 venerables to form a team, and then fight with the opponent. Those who win are promoted, and those who fail are eliminated. It is a very simple and clear battle process. No need, let me join the team. Jia Yan shook his head. Since he wants to show some strength, he will not miss the opportunity to show his face in the team battle. Okay, then I'll put you in the 3rd position. If you encounter a strong team, just admit defeat and save your strength. The centipede monster nodded. In artificial stars, there is no sunrise or moonrise, so here, time seems meaningless, and the people watching the battle are basically strong men. It is normal to go for a few days without rest, so after the battle begins, then he directly entered into a long tug of war. First of all, it's a personal battle, Jia Yan, remember, rush to the top 20 for me. Jia Yan was reminded by Bai Wangfu's brainwave power again and again, and went to draw the battle number. Number 31, Jia Yan looked at the number, and then saw his opponent's number on the screen. Who is no 47, he looked behind him again and saw a giant 100 meters away, smiling coldly at him. Boy, you are my opponent, right? I heard that you are a newcomer recently recruited by Wu Xi's forces. Our half-star level adults all value you very much. I just don't believe it. I will let you know later. None of the strong men in the genius battlefield are that simple. The giant sent a message to Jia Yan. I hope so, Jia Yan replied. There was no emotion in his words, and he seemed not to be affected by the other party's powerful aura. The giant froze for a moment, but the killing intent in his heart became even worse. In the circular combat area, a battle began. Not only that, there was also a battle in the sky. This is because there are too many people fighting, and no strong person is willing to watch the battle at the venerable level. Originally, in this genius battlefield, if you want to show your strength, you need at least half-star level strength. Except for them, the next level strong people cannot make others pay much attention, let alone the venerable ones. The venerables fighting in the field below are well-known venerables. Have you seen, dear viewers, this venerable from the Iron Sect force is actually a powerful being that is more than half of the venerables? His strength is completely stronger than the other one. Oh, we win. The semi-star level commentator seemed to have some explanation ability. He explained the ground battle with a strong tone, which was very able to attract the emotions of the audience. The venerables who were arranged to fight on the ground were actually relatively powerful or interesting. With many groups fighting at the same time, it was Jia Yan's turn soon. He didn't pay any attention, so he was arranged to fight in the sky. The combat area is within a radius of 200 kilometers. The opponent can be killed. However, if the opponent admits defeat, they must stop. Otherwise, if we don't kill, the people from the genius battlefield will come and kill the violators. Do you understand? The referee was a strong person in the second level. When he saw Jia Yan and his opponent's giant flying into the sky, he impatiently explained the rules again. Let's start. After saying this, the second level expert stepped aside. Having seen too many battles at the venerable level, this second level master was too disdainful. Although there is only one level, or even a small level, between the strength of the venerable level and the powerful people of the second level, their strength is still very different. He felt that his strength has dropped after looking at it. Boy, it's too late to admit defeat now. Otherwise, when I take action, you may not even have the chance to admit defeat. The giant flew into the battle circle and looked at Jia Yan coldly. You talk too much. Jia Yan controlled his giant mosquito body and stopped 10 kilometers away from the opponent, saying softly, "Court death." There was a look of anger in the big giant's eyes, and then he clenched his huge palm into a fist and struck hard in the direction of Jia Yan. Attacking from a long distance, his palm seemed to have traveled through many spaces and hit Jia Yan's body hard. My talent is invincible at the same level. This time you will be injured even if you don't die. Seeing that the giant had hit Jia Yan, his face showed a hint of excitement. He thought he won with this one blow. But in the space where his arm was swung, the Jia Yan that he knocked away was like a mirror, completely broken. After image, the giant's demeanor suddenly changed. With his mind racing, he understood the other party's plan, and he quickly started to increase his speed. And the moment he reacted, the space behind his body suddenly split open, and then a front foot shot out like lightning and flint. Although this giant escaped very quickly, it was still unable to compare with the ejected front legs. A trace of blood appeared in the starry sky. I surrender. The giant saw that the front legs from behind were like maggots attached to the bones and continued to shoot at him. If he shot again, he would definitely die. He was so horrified that he quickly shouted and gave up. Jia Yan's hung. Just when he gave up, the referee from the second level outside the battle circle announced the result of Jia Yan's victory. However, he looked at Jia Yan with a touch of surprise, because Jia Yan won so quickly that even he was a little curious. But this is just the victory of a distinguished man. In this battle of geniuses, there are many geniuses who can win quickly when they encounter incompetent opponents. But often in the future, they will lose badly when they encounter opponents who cannot restrain themselves. Come on, Jia Yan's performance doesn't mean that he is really strong. Concession. Jia Yan said lightly to the giant, and then fell into the team on the ground with the others' disbelieving eyes. Congratulations, you won your first victory. As soon as he landed, Bai Wangfu's voice reached Jia Yan's ears. Thank you. Jia Yan nodded. The surrounding venerables of Wu Xi's force looked at Jia Yan with no surprise. His strength has been proven in Wu Xi's force. It's not worth it for Jia Yan to be able to defeat one or two strong men. Accident. Huh. Just as Jia Yan responded to Bai Wangfu, he looked at the battlefield on the ground with some surprise. It turned out that a very terrible battle was going on there. The two venerable level beings were fighting fiercely on the ground. The energy in their battle even required the action of several semi-star level experts to suppress it and prevent it from spraying into the audience. Interesting. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with surprise, and then he became interested. The two powerful men on both sides of the battle were actually the top venerable geniuses of the two major forces that they had encountered early on. One of them is a one-legged monster with arms as sharp as sickles. Every swing of the sword can cause cutting in space, and the move is extremely weird. Facing this powerful move, a black bear-like strong man on the opposite side roared and slapped the sickle away with his fleshy palm. The thickness of his palm made him almost invulnerable, and he was completely unafraid of the opponent's sickle blade. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 839. Now let's see. The top sages from Northlands and the top sages from Weta are actually fighting so early. It's totally unexpected. Jia Yan heard the voices around him, and then understood the identities and status of these two powerful men. It turned out that these two were both talented sages who could have competed for the championship, but now they met. Not only was one destined to disappear, but the other was also destined to consume his physical energy, which would definitely be detrimental to both sides in the future. Looking at the venerables of the Urshan forces, they all sneered. Jia Yan wouldn't believe it if there was no shady story about this team. But this has nothing to do with him. Just as he hoped, seeing the high-level genius battle in the genius battlefield is very useful to him. Well, this move is exquisite. When Jia Yan saw the strong black bear, the brainwave power in his palm turned into a shield, constantly blocking the sharp knife-shaped arm, and felt that this move was extremely exquisite. It turns out that there is such a way to efficiently utilize the power of brainwaves in the world. It seems that my previous path has also gone a little wrong. Jia Yan looked at the two monsters fighting and slowly realized a lot. Although he is not necessarily not as strong as these two powerful men, or he is definitely stronger than them. But after all, these two powerful men are two talented warriors in the battlefield. Each has its own powerful way. Jia Yan didn't say what he learned from them, but he always made an analogy and saw their fighting methods. Then I thought of many directions in which I could be strong. There is also this monster with scythe arms. He is also extremely powerful. He stabs out with knives, which are somewhat similar to my front feet, and his attack methods are more than mine. Although our styles are different, I have to learn from him, but occasionally I can use a similar move or two, which might also be a way to enrich my attack methods. While absorbing the experience of these two powerful men fighting, Jia Yan was paying attention to the battles in other venues. The venerables present were all geniuses. Even though some of them were strong and some were weak, there was something about each of them that Jia Yan could gain insights from. Jia Yan's single-mindedness is divided into several parts, and he constantly learns and understands the battles of other sages. He is improving faster and faster. This is not an improvement in physical fitness, nor an improvement in energy, but an improvement in understanding of fighting and one's own fighting style. Although Jia Yan's previous fighting skills were guided by light and shadow monsters, they were still a bit rough due to Yeluzi. Now he has been put into a genius environment where the fighting style and fighting skills are so refined, which has resulted in the details of his fighting. Huge improvement. Jia Yan has always been very smart. It is impossible for others to improve in just a short period of watching the battle, but he is different. He has been living between life and death. Every battle is an opportunity for him to improve. and it is the same now. See, when he went to fight with other strong men, he learned more than other spectators while watching the battle. This black bear monster is going to lose. When the battle reached a certain level, Jia Yan realized the outcome of the two geniuses. Sure enough, when the black bear monster struck out with such force that it almost shook the whole world, the blade arm monster in front of him flew up directly, then escaped from the opponent's fleshy palm, and stabbed down with a knife. This stab was somewhat similar to Jia Yan's stab. It hit the back of the black bear monster's neck with one blow, and his eyes widened. "I surrender." The black bear monster said something with blood spurting out from its mouth, but it was already too late. When the words were spoken, the opponent's brainwave power struck along the muscles of the back of his neck and then exploded his head. With a bang, what immediately rang out was the roar of the semi-star level powerhouse of the Weta Force. "You are so bold. Even my powerful genius has given up. You still dare to kill me? Come and die." The half-star level powerhouse suddenly bombarded out, but in front of him, several equally powerful figures blocked him. Yu, a strong man from the Weta Force, spoke a bit slowly. "We think he was not wrong. In a genius battle, accidents will always happen. Don't disrupt the order of the field." Several half-star powerhouses intercepted this half-star powerhouse from the Weta Force, making the opponent almost furious. Jia Yan watched this scene with cold eyes. He knew that there was nothing the powerful Weta Force could do about this kind of thing. Several major forces must have been ready to kill this strong black bear. After all, the strong men in the genius battlefield cannot be judged by common sense. Now that the opponent is a genius, maybe this black bear monster will be promoted to a genius in a few days. With a half-star level and powerful talent, he might even be able to fight against them. So find a way to kill now. It seems that the more powerful a genius is, the more dangerous he is in this genius war. Jia Yan watched two more games. Although he did not see the genius master who was as powerful as the sickle strongman and the black bear strongman, there were still a few eye-catching ones, but every time the winner or loser was decided, there was always one side want to kill the other party. Finally, one round of competition passed, and the entire venue was ablaze with the genius battle that often killed people, making it extremely lively. Jia Yan, He Tang, Arena No 1. Jia Yan originally thought that he would not compete so early in the morning, but he heard that his name was actually arranged in the first game. He Tang. Jia Yan was startled, and then he saw the name of his opponent. It turned out that this opponent was a distinguished genius who was predicted to be ranked 19th before the game. Two powerful men came to power. "Are you a strong member of that Wu Ci force? I advise you to admit defeat, otherwise you will die." When the other party came to the stage, he said this to Jia Yan. "Oh," Jia Yan responded lightly, then looked him over. "This is a being that looks like a monkey. He is holding a long stick in his hand, which is somewhat similar to the Sun Wukong in the Chinese mythology on Earth. Sorry, I won't admit defeat. I hope you will be merciful." Jia Yan shook his head lightly. "Okay, for the sake of your sense, I will keep your whole body." There is a cold look on your monkey monster's face. It seems that Jia Yan does not agree to admit defeat and looks a little dissatisfied. "Whole body." Jia Yan smiled from the bottom of his heart. "Okay then, let's leave his whole body." While the other party was talking, Jia Yan moved. He did not use all his strength and was too dazzling in this genius battlefield. Either he was strong enough or had a strong background, otherwise it would be difficult to escape from death. So he only used about 30% of his strength and stabbed away. "Oh, you have some strength." The Monkey Lord's eyes lit up, as if he thought Jia Yan had exceeded his expectations. Then he took half a step back, and then slammed the stick in the direction of Jia Yan. This was the first person to use a weapon against Jia Yan, something that made Jia Yan fearful. His body stopped the speed of the attack, and then he suddenly turned around and stabbed out another front leg from behind. This move is so flexible. The monkey monster didn't expect that Jia Yan's two 4-foot attacks could be so flexible and flexible. It suddenly suffered a small loss and quickly took another half step back. The noble level beings below were so shocked when they saw the scene that they wanted to scream. Isn't this Jia Yan from Wuxi's force, which was almost always at the bottom? How could this force have such a being, and actually tie with 19 geniuses? No, he seems to still have some energy left. Could it be that Wuxi's force will produce someone who will enter the top 20 this time? Let's see if he can win this game first. Each of the sages looked at the battle between Jia Yan and the original 19 with some surprise. They were not only surprised by Jia Yan's strength, but also by how Wuxi's power could produce such a terrifying genius. Some curious experts quietly asked Jia Yan about the existence of Mo Sheng's face, and then they all showed a look of shock. Because they found out that this venerable named Jia Yan was actually a newcomer to the genius battlefield. A newcomer, participating in the genius battle for the first time in the genius battlefield, was able to draw a tie with a 19-year-old from the 251st sector. This is amazing. Oh, that's interesting. I hope he can fight with me in 10 years. In the distant player's resting area, the Scythe Master who had previously fought against the strong black bear looked at Jia Yan fighting on the field, with a hint of fighting intent flashing in his eyes. But what he is thinking about now is the strength of this new strongman 10 years from now. Now, he thinks that he only needs a few tricks to defeat Jia Yan. Several other strong men also had some interest in Jia Yan. Among Wuxi's forces, the Venerables and the strong men from the second pass also looked horrified after seeing Jia Yan's strength. You must know that they just heard that Jia Yan fought against the original 19 strong men in the first round of the second round. They all thought that there was no chance, but now they saw that Jia Yan was able to fight to a tie with the opponent. How rare it was now. The strong ones in the ranking were all shocked. Haha, this guy doesn't seem to have used his full strength yet. Bai Huangfu, who was among Wuxi's forces, was even more surprised to discover another hidden point of Jia Yan. Just when all the powerful men were shocked by Jia Yan's strength. Go to hell. The strong monkey, after a long battle, seemed to have discovered Jia Yan's mistake, and then struck with a stick out of joy. And the stick he hit was shaken in the next moment. It turned out that during this blow, Jia Yan's body entered the subspace without any haste or slowness. Then his feet appeared behind the opponent, and then stabbed lightly into the opponent's back. It sounds long, but all of this actually happened in a short moment. Well. The strong monkey felt the rapid loss of life force, and couldn't help but want to turn his head in disbelief. But the last words he heard in the newspaper were Jia Yan's soft words, "Thank you for saying that you would keep my whole body. In order to repay you, I also kept my whole body for you. How about it, are you happy?" Jia Yan's soft words made the strong monkey almost vomit blood, but now he could no longer say any harsh words. It's just a rush. Die. Jia Yan wins again. Thanks to the two book friends who have tipped in the past 2 days, thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 840. The winner will be this newcomer named Jia Yan. I seem to have seen the rise of a new star. Well, well. Everyone, remember him. This man won the first battle. I have chosen the 19th supreme talented newcomer in Star District 215 Jia Yan. The semi-star level commentator on the stage looked at Jia Yan with a strange look. Jia Yan's heart trembled. There seemed to be quite a few of the semi-star level experts around him who looked like this. After Jia Yan thought for a moment, it didn't matter anymore. He knew that his current strength was not enough to threaten these semi-stars, and the other party just had some interest in him. Okay, you go down. A strong man from Siguan ordered Jia Yan to leave, and then asked a high-level being from Xing Kong to come out and sort out the body and relics of the strong monkey man. The starry sky-level powerhouses who dominate the outside world can only be regarded as subordinates of the powerful men in this genius battlefield and are not taken seriously at all. Jia Yan came down from the stage, and then saw Nabi Huangfu among Wu Si's forces from a distance and nodded to him. Jia Yan also gave a slight greeting and then entered his place in the team. Jia Yan, I didn't expect that your strength can even defeat this 19th strong man. I hope you can work harder and win a top 20 ranking for Wu Si's force. The centipede monster came to Jia Yan and spoke to him. I will try my best. Jia Yan nodded. Of course he will try his best, but not to compete with his best, but to try his best to conceal his strength in front of such a large number of semi-star level experts. The battle continued, and Jia Yan took the stage 5 or 6 times after that, but never met a decent strong man, and there was also a venerable genius. When he saw it was Jia Yan, he immediately announced defeat. His strength has reached a point where he can be taken seriously by others and even take the initiative to admit defeat. The venerables of the Wu Si force all lamented that since the establishment of the Wu Si force, no strong person has ever enjoyed such treatment. The venerable is like this. The powerful people in the second level are also at the bottom, and even the half-star level existence is still ranked very low. As soon as Jia Yan joined Wu Si's forces, they gained a lot of respect. At this time, some venerable geniuses suddenly became a little closer to Jia Yan, a newcomer. Soon the fight came to the 7th round. After many battles, the top 40 spots were finally determined. Jia Yan is among them. Among the geniuses of the entire Wu Si faction, except for Jia Yan, the other most powerful ones are only ranked outside the 100th place, and Jia Yan's ranking, even if he is ranked at the bottom of the 40, is already directly the venerable person who broke through Wu Si's best ranking of power. Jia Yan, you are indeed not an ordinary genius. Your qualifications are at least a mid-level genius. A strong man from the second pass came to Jia Yan and looked at Jia Yan with some kindness in his eyes. Jia Yan remembers this strong person from the second level, one of the most selfless strong people from the second level in the entire Wu Si force. It is said that this talented person is really for the good of the Wu Si force and has not made a breakthrough for many years. Haha, I haven't tested my true talent, and I don't know if I have an average talent. Maybe not, Jia Yan replied with a pun in his words. The other party thought that Jia Yan thought that he was not a middle-level genius, but a low-middle or low-level genius. He immediately shook his head. Jia Yan, you have to have confidence in yourself. I believe you must be a mid-level genius. I hope you can get ranked within 20, then you will definitely be a mid-level genius. This Sigwan strongman is looking forward to Jia Yan. The 5th game of the 7th round, Jia Yan, Ping Zi, come on. The referee shouted out the names of both combatants in the battle circle. Okay, it's my turn. Jia Yan said goodbye to the strong man from that time, and then came on the stage. This time his opponent was also ranked in the top 40. Jia Yan remembered that the opponent was ranked 17th in the previous session. Jia Yan, right? It is said that you have just arrived at the genius battlefield, which is very good. I am very optimistic about you. The strong man was a tall horse-like monster with 8 pairs of legs. When he came up, he actually praised Jia Yan directly, like a senior. Thank you for the compliment, I think highly of you too, Jia Yan replied in a neither humble nor condescending tone. But in his words, he seemed to be dissatisfied with the other party's remarks about being optimistic about him, and actually said that he was also optimistic about the other party. Of course, when his opponent said that to Jia Yan, he obviously said it in a high-profile manner. How could Jia Yan admit defeat verbally? It seems that you are very confident in your own strength. Let me tell you, the strength of each of the top 40 strong men will be different, and my strength should be in the top 12. I was unlucky to meet him last time. Only the top 10 strong people lost. Your strength is similar to that of the 19, but there is a big gap between me and me who should have been 12, So how about you admit defeat? Seeing that Jia Yan refused to admit defeat, the horse monster directly persuaded Jia Yan to admit defeat. Oh? Do you think you can get the 12th place? Very good. I just want to see if I can also be ranked in the top 12. Let's compete. Jia Yan stopped talking to the strong man and directly assumed a fighting posture. The other party was also a powerful venerable, but Jia Yan did not find any venerable who could compare with him in this battle of geniuses in the star area. He even doubted that in the entire genius battlefield, there was no one of the same level who could compare with him. If you don't underestimate your own capabilities, just fight. The horse monster gave a loud shout, and then started running with 8 pairs of feet, rushing towards Jia Yan. Jia Yan quickly analyzed his attack method, which was similar to the collision of war horses on Earth. I will continue to use 30% of my strength, but when I really have to expose myself, I can only expose myself to 40% of my strength. Jia Yan would not blindly look down on the other party. After analyzing it at this time, he felt that he had to use about 40% of your strength to defeat your opponent. The opponent hit very fast, and Jia Yan tried to dodge again and again, but under the control of his 8 pairs of feet, he was able to turn around and continue to hit. Finally one time, Jia Yan's wing was slightly rubbed by the opponent's body. Haha, now you will be seriously injured even if you don't die. The horse monster shouted with ecstasy. That's not necessarily the case. Jia Yan was hit by the huge impact force so that his wings bounced up and his whole body flew up. The huge impact force forced him to flap his wings and flap them like crazy in space. At the same time, the brainwave power was used to the extent of 40% of the power, which made the rolling body stop. What? He actually has such great power. For Jia Yan, he only increased the strength by 40% from the 30% he originally used. However, in the eyes of the people around him, it was Jia Yan's power that suddenly increased by about 30%. You must know that this 30%, it's amazing, it can even cross the level of a strong person. The strong horseman who was about to give Jia Yan another blow looked startled. He suddenly panicked when he saw that Jia Yan, under the control of extremely powerful force, stopped rolling and counterattacked towards him. He wanted to escape or fight back, but Jia Yan, whose strength instantly increased, was no longer what he could match now. Puff! Jia Yan stabbed the opponent's abdomen with one blow. I give up, please let me go, I give up. This horse monster gave up quickly. Seeing that he had given up, Jia Yan stopped attacking and retracted his front foot, causing the opponent to grin and almost scream in pain. Jia Yan's hung. The referees on the stage almost looked at Jia Yan like a flower. You must know that although they are referees, they are also strong in the next level of other forces. Now they see that such a person has appeared in the Wu Ci force, which has always been at the bottom. Your Majesty, you have a lot on your mind. But now during the Genius War, whoever has any thoughts must hide them. As for Jia Yan, after defeating this strong horseman, he directly advanced into the top 20 of the Venerable's personal battle. The powerful men in Wu Ci's power all looked at each other as if they were dreaming. Jia Yan won just now? He represented our Wu Ci force and advanced to the top 20? Oh my god! I seem to have seen it too. Jia Yan has really entered the top 20. It's amazing. I was a little dissatisfied before when Master Bai Wangfu looked at him with admiration. But now I'm convinced. And the power he finally exploded is simply not something a newcomer should have. It's too powerful, but I think it's some kind of explosive secret technique that can make him one of the top 20. He won't have the power for the next battle. That's enough, these are 20 people. The venerables of Wu Ci's force all looked at Jia Yan, a little shocked, and some dodge. You must know that many of the former strong men of Wu Ci's force had some criticisms of Jia Yan. Jia Yan, you did a great job. Just after Jia Yan stepped off the stage, Bai Wangfu, who was sitting at the back and was extremely calm, walked out in person, came to Jia Yan's side, and gave a happy congratulations. Live up to expectations. Jia Yan smiled at him. His goal was not just the top 20. Now Bai Wangfu was shocked. What will happen later? The venerable level is still not taken seriously enough by these semi-star level experts. Bai Wangfu takes me seriously because I may bring honor to Wu Xi's forces. And if I win the first place among His Holiness. As long as I don't act too powerful, these semi-star level experts will at most regard me as a threat in a few years or even decades. After that, at most, they will take action in person. If you want to take action, at least you have to wait until I kill several powerful people from Guangguan. And by then, with the speed of my improvement, I probably won't be afraid of the geniuses here at the semi-star level. Thinking about this, Jia Yan finally made an outlook on his ranking. Personal battle, first place. Thank you to brother Xian Tian, for several 500 rewards, and thank you to brother Mango Pudding for several 500 rewards. Thank you, Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 841. A strong person cannot start the road to becoming stronger if he does not want to be the strongest. In actual situations, the strong people will gradually become afraid to imagine that they are the strongest due to various practical reasons. But Jia Yan is different. His strength is almost invincible at the same level. Exist. Now he has made a goal to win first place in this sector battle. Even if I win first place, there is no way that a star-level strong person will come to deal with me. I am not afraid of a second-level strong person. The sparkle in Jia Yan's eyes was that winning the first place was not just for Wu Xi's power, but because he, as a strong man, came to this battlefield of geniuses and what he needed was to fight against powerful geniuses. The road to becoming a strong person is to advance bravely along the rapids. If Jia Yan retreats now, he will definitely regret it in the future. The battle of the top 20 strong men begins. Just after Jia Yan thought a lot, the battle among the 20 strongest men began. With these two genius creatures fighting against each other, I can learn the ferocity of the strong one on the left, and the one on the right can be my teacher of battle strategies. Jia Yan watched each battle and learned at the same time. To this extent, every talented person could become Jia Yan's teacher. Although their strength cannot be compared with Jia Yan, there are always some strong points that Jia Yan can learn from. He is like a sponge, learning a lot quickly. In the next game, Jia Yan, the super dark horse newcomer from the Wu Ci force, will face the king of the Urshan force like me. Along with the commentator's passionate explanation, Jia Yan heard his own name. He stood up slowly. Jia Yan, your good luck has come to an end. I am an extremely powerful sea creature. His strength is probably among the top 5. Now that you meet him, if you can't do it, just give up. Bai Wangfu said regretfully in Jia Yan's ear. In fact, his tone was extremely gratifying. Jia Yan's ability to reach the top 20 had already exceeded his expectations. Jia Yan's strength has already proved his vision. From now on, he only needs to train this newcomer well. Maybe in the future, there will be someone in Wu Ci's force who will hit the top 5 of the Venerable. But what he didn't expect was that Jia Yan just responded to him, okay, I'll give it a try. Then he walked towards the battle circle. In the battle circle, a tall creature also came up. He looks like a big fish, but he can float in space. The sight is extremely strange. Jia Yan, I didn't expect that you, the dark horse of Wu Ci's force, could reach this point, but now you're done here. If you don't want to die, just admit defeat. The big fish monster said to Jia Yan indifferently. Jia Yan shook his head. He felt as if no one thought he could win, which made him a little uncomfortable. If you can kill me, try it yourself, Jia Yan said. Humph. I don't know what to do, the big fish expert just tried to persuade Jia Yan. Although he thought he could easily kill Jia Yan, after all, he was also a dark horse who broke into the top 20. It will cost him a little bit of energy, and there will be some resistance when he hits the top 5 later. But now seeing that Jia Yan refused to admit defeat, he immediately thought that Jia Yan was overestimating his capabilities. The big fish swung its tail suddenly and flew towards Jia Yan. His strength is at the peak of the Venerables, and not just him, the Venerables who can enter the top 20 are all at the same peak of the Venerables. As for the strength that Jia Yan showed, he was only a newbie, so it was natural for everyone to look down on Jia Yan. Of course, Jia Yan's actual strength, although more than just a beginner, is similar. Even if he shows it all, he will still be laughed at, but the brainwave power does not represent everything. Boom. There is only one overwhelming force in the world, which is suppressing and sweeping towards Jia Yan. Jia Yan's eyes flashed slightly, then he missed the blow. Hey, you were able to dodge my attack. The big fish expert was surprised when he saw Jia Yan dodging his blow in a somewhat embarrassed manner. Jia Yan didn't speak, he just analyzed the strength of the big fish expert in his mind. The opponent's strength is almost the same as that between an outside venerable and a second-level strongman. It has almost reached the level of a second-level strongman. This strength is indeed worthy of being a genius in the genius battlefield, and this strength, and he is not the top genius in the genius battlefield, it is simply terrifying. Jia Yan thought about the strength of this genius, and then dodged the opponent's second attack again. The first time it was luck, but the second time it couldn't be called luck. You actually escaped 2 attacks from me? It seems that it was no accident that you were able to reach this point. The big fish expert was stunned. You can try again and see if I walked up to you by chance, Jia Yan said provocatively. Court death. The opponent's expression changed, and after a sharp glare, he started attacking again. But this time Jia Yan not only dodged it, but after spitting out the tail needle, he even stabbed the opponent back at the moment he attacked. Ah! The big fish expert was shocked, and then he realized that Jia Yan not only had the ability to dodge, but could also counter-attack when he attacked with his tail. He immediately started to attack again, feeling a little timid. In this state, Jia Yan no longer worried about his attacks. Even if he only spent 35% of his strength, he still continued to cause damage to the opponent. I surrender. Just after Big Fish was attacked 5 times by Jia Yan, but he never hurt Jia Yan once, he finally realized that he was no match for Jia Yan. For fear of being killed, he hurriedly surrendered. It's Jia Yan who wins again. This Jia Yan even defeated me, who is in the power of Urshan. It's amazing, although I'm very unhappy, ha ha ha. The commentator, a semi-star level expert, burst out laughing when Jia Yan won. It seemed that Jia Yan won, which was such a funny thing to him. Everyone could hear that although this strong man was smiling, he was actually extremely angry. But his anger is more for the big fish in his own power. Jia Yan's current strength is still not favored by the semi-star level powerhouse. The entire audience was excited. Let me tell you, this Wu Ci force must have picked up a treasure. I heard that Jia Yan doesn't seem to be a strong person in their force at all, but has some connections. Picking up Ji is a genius sent to them by God. It's simply incredible luck. That's right, and there seems to be some gap between Jia Yan and Wu Ci within the forces. Should we try to recruit him? This kind of genius is almost a genius in the battlefield. He is an intermediate genius, and for a small force like ours, he is a very powerful genius. The strong men watching the battle were all surprised by Jia Yan's strength. Naturally, there are some extremely powerful beings in the audience, and some are even more powerful forces from outside who came to observe. Now seeing the newcomer Jia Yan, who seems to have some signs of an intermediate genius, his eyes suddenly became hot. After all, although some forces are stronger than those in the 215th Star District, they are still hungry for intermediate geniuses. The only ones who can ignore or despise the intermediate geniuses are the few top genius forces in the genius battlefield. There are so many intermediate geniuses among them. And if the forces outside these forces get an intermediate genius to join, that is all. They were extremely surprised. But the sector war is still going on, and it would be too much to win over Jia Yan now, so they are all waiting. Jia Yan. You actually defeated me. When Jia Yan returned to Wu Xi's force, Nabi Huangfu and all the talented and strong men of Wu Xi's force were stunned. As a genius force at the lowest level, they never thought that there would be someone in the top 10 in their own force. After Jia Yan defeated this person, it meant that even if he lost next, he is definitely one of the top 10 geniuses in the 215-star district. What an honor! How has Wu Xi's power ever received such attention? Haha, I said, I will try to win. Jia Yan just said a little respectfully to Bai Wangfu. He ignored other people's words. Very good, Jia Yan, the 10th strongest one is enough. You probably don't know that if you can be in the top 10, the interstellar resources allocated by our Wu Xi forces will also increase greatly. Thank you very much. Bai Wangfu smiled and said to Jia Yan explained. So that's it. Jia Yan suddenly realized. No wonder every force attaches so much importance to rankings, and every genius and strong man works extremely hard. It turns out that it is not only a matter of reputation, but also material things. When he came to his position, the venerables lined up on one side all automatically gave way to him, especially those who had ridiculed Jia Yan. Now that they saw Jia Yan, they were like it was the mouse who met the cat. After knowing Jia Yan's true strength, they all understood that Jia Yan wanted to deal with them with just one blow. You must know that dealing with the top 10 venerables in the star region is as easy as killing a chicken. Jia Yan ignored them. Shock. Their shock has just begun. The top 10 have been decided, and now the battle for the top 10 rankings begins. Each of the top 10 will have to fight 10 battles. Of course, it is not necessary if they are killed. I hope that none of these 10 rookies will be killed. Those who are killed, especially a certain dark horse, should live well. The semi-star level commentator announced the ranking battle for the top 10, and specifically pointed out the words of a certain newcomer. Everyone knows that his feelings for Jia Yan are not very good. The fighting methods of the top 10 strongmen are carried out in every sector battle, and everyone is familiar with them. Except Jia Yan. So the top 10 battles require 10 battles. Jia Yan was speechless in his heart. After each battle, even he felt that his strength was slightly weakened, and the other strong men must have become even weaker. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 842. But rules are rules, and maybe this kind of rules also has the idea of testing the endurance of geniuses. Everyone fights 10 games, which is 100 games. These 100 games, this competition will be divided into 3 days. Now the players can rest. It turned out to be 3 days. Jia Yan suddenly realized this. During the rest time of the players, Jia Yan received enthusiastic support from Wu Xi's geniuses. Even the person who had spoken coldly to Jia Yan suddenly changed his attitude, as if the previous unpleasantness had never happened at all. Jia Yan, these past few days are the first time I've been so happy since I entered the genius battlefield. I hope you can work harder in the future and win at least one victory for my Wu Xi force. Bai Wangfu came to Jia Yan and expressed his fervent hope to Jia Yan. It turns out that all he wanted was Jia Yan's victory, which was almost 9th place. Haha, okay, I'll give it a try. Jia Yan still said the same thing. But the words he said before were completely different from the feeling this time. Bai Wangfu seemed to hear another meaning, and he looked at Jia Yan with a strange look in his eyes. On the second day, the battle started again, and this was also the first and most exciting peak of the venerable competition in the genius battle in the entire sector. Jia Yan has 3 battles today. There are fewer battles than during the audition period when he was ranked below 10, but because they are all top talents, the level of fatigue is not the same as before. Jia Yan, dance to the wolf. The half-star level expert shouted out Jia Yan's name on the high platform. Jia Yan, work hard. Jia Yan, it's okay if you lose, just don't get hurt. The existences of Wuxi's force all cheered for Jia Yan. Although even now there are still creatures who don't have very good senses for Jia Yan, but they are all creatures in Wuxi's force. Jia Yan can give this, their power has increased, and they can also share the benefits of resources. Of course, they have to work hard. As for whether they will still be so good to Jia Yan in the future, that is a matter of the future. Jia Yan just smiled and then walked onto the circular battlefield. The other party is a well-known and veteran venerable genius, and he is also a well-known venerable in this 215-star district. Jia Yan, I respect that it is not easy for you as a newcomer to get here, but now you must lose, otherwise we old sages will lose face. The other party's body shape is just like his wolf dance name. He is a wolf, and a female. I won't admit defeat. If you want to fight, let's fight, Jia Yan said. He didn't know how many times he repeated this sentence during this Star War. Okay, let me show you the strength of my real top lord in the 215th star district. The wolf dance turned into a line of blue smoke, and its vigorous body fluttered wildly in the field, bringing out a gust of wind. Then she rushed towards the area where Jia Yan was, and at the same time as the impact, her claws were directly covered with a layer of cyan light. It turns out to be the brainwave power of the armor, and its environmental control ability is also extremely terrifying. Jia Yan felt that the entire space around him was suppressed, and there was great resistance when he moved. But now he doesn't have much fear. This power can't cause any hindrance to him at full strength. Of course, now he can't show too much strength, so his body is slightly hindered. Die. The wolf dance came to Jia Yan's side, and then pounced on Jia Yan's body with its sharp claws. She seemed to have judged that Jia Yan could not break through the suppression of his environmental forces, and now she pounced with an indomitable momentum. But before Jia Yan pounced on his body, his front feet seemed to have been waiting for a long time, and he shot out. This was a blow that he had been preparing for a long time, and his strength had already been gathered, waiting for the opponent's arrival. Puff! The giant wolf suddenly froze, then jumped to the side with a trace of scars. She was injured, but the wolf dance race was not only similar in appearance, but also in personality to the wolves on Earth. She was not willing to admit defeat at all, and Jia Yan only exploded in an instant. She thought that the other party had used some kind of secret technique and it must not be able to be used for a long time. Jia Yan sighed a little. He had actually paid attention to the battle of these 10 strong men just now, and then analyzed some of their characteristics in Jia Yan's mind. Now he fights them, even if Jia Yan doesn't use more than 4 Cheng's strength is enough to deal with it. The opponent attacks again. The strange light in Jia Yan's eyes flashed again. Ouch! Wolf Dance let out a miserable howl. Afterwards, all the powerful men saw the giant wolf fall to the ground, and then became extremely furious. It turned out that a long blood mark appeared on her body. The blood stain stretched from the bottom of the body to the head. It was just a little bit close to killing her. Ouch! Roar! Wolf Wu seemed to be going crazy. The pain made her lose her mind. At this time, she actually wanted to engage in a trapped beast fight and carry out a life and death attack on Jia Yan. That's enough, we admit defeat. Suddenly, a calm voice entered the arena, and at the same time, a faint force came to the competition circle. I saw a giant wolf that was huge and more terrifying than Wolf Wu appeared. When he came to the side of Wolf Wu, the power of a semi-star level powerhouse almost irresistibly controlled Wolf Wu. Jia Yan also felt that this power was gently isolating him, and there was no murderous intention in the power. Jia Yan, you are very powerful. We admit defeat. The giant wolf turned around and said calmly to Jia Yan. Jia Yan didn't speak. He could feel that this half-star giant wolf was more powerful than the half-star geniuses from other forces on the side. As for his blatant intrusion into the battlefield, even the semi-star level experts around him didn't stop him, which gave us some clues about his strength. Okay, this time it's our talented dark horse again, Jia Yan wins. It's incredible. The half-star powerhouse who was commentating on the high platform seemed a little embarrassed by the appearance of the half-star giant wolf. After all, as a commentator, he should have been the first to stop it. But he didn't dare. Jia Yan won this match again and walked off the stage under the incredible gazes of all the strong men. Jia Yan, congratulations on winning again, but you have to be careful. The half-star genius who saved Lang Wu just now is her fiancé. If you hurt his fiancé, he might cause trouble for you. When Jia Yan came to the audience, Bai Wangfu immediately said to him. Oh, Senior Bai Wangfu, is this half-star giant wolf very powerful? Jia Yan heard Bai Wangfu's solemn tone, and his heart tightened, and he asked curiously. Strong. To be honest with you, even if the three of us fight him, we may not be able to beat him. He is the strongest among the half-star geniuses in the entire 215th sector. Hearing Bai Wangfu's words, Jia Yan almost took a breath of air. It turned out that this giant wolf monster was so powerful. Then Jia Yan asked again and found out that this giant wolf expert actually created a powerful genius force one by one. The entire 215-star district is able to have the current stability thanks to his previous work. The reason why he turned the tide during a war with Sector 212 and defeated the opponent's strongest half-star genius. His name is Wolf Star. After Jia Yan read the information, he wrote down the name. He had a hunch that he would have an encounter with this Wolf Star. And after he conducted some inquiries and brain searches, another round of fighting passed in the battle circle. This is another battle that everyone is looking forward to. Both sides of the battle are dark horses in this year. One of them is the most shining genius in our 215th district this time. He has just joined the genius battlefield and has entered the top 10 in one fell swoop. Rising Star King Jia Yan. On the other side, there are only 45 in the previous class. This time, the quasi-newcomer who broke into the top 10 in one breath, Wu Tianxi. After hearing his destiny, Jia Yan stopped what he was doing and stepped into the battle circle without much thought. For him, it doesn't matter whether he prepares for the game or not. The venerable level of the 215th star district has long been no big challenge for him. Jia Yan, you are stronger than I imagined, but this dark horse in the Star Zone war can only be mine. You will be defeated by me. The opponent's so-called dark horse had already lost the last battle against another top 10 genius. He didn't want to lose to Jia Yan this time, especially when Jia Yan, the dark horse, was even darker than him. A genius who had just joined the genius battlefield actually surpassed his record, rushed directly to the top 10, and even won a game. He was very jealous. Find bookstore. But words are words, and actually taking action still depends on your true strength. I saw bursts of confrontation on the stage. Puff. The other dark horse expert knelt at Jia Yan's feet. I admit defeat, don't kill me, the dark horse said nervously and trembling. Jia Yan made an indifferent mocking sound and then left the field proudly. He acted indifferently, but this victory really shocked the entire audience and the major participating teams. Did Jia Yan win again? Oh my god, this is a battle between the top 10, and he actually won 2 games in one go? Doesn't this mean that even if he doesn't win in the next game, he can still get ranked above 8? Are you in position? This, is this a genius who has just joined the genius battlefield? I just learned that he has entered the genius battlefield less than a year ago. If it were me back then, I would not even have the power of this strange star field. Without being familiar with each other, he was able to place at least 8th in the Star Zone Genius competition? Is this because he is too talented, or am I too useless? It's so unbelievable. In the past, this genius strength must have been extremely terrifying. He seems to be less than 60 years old. Such a genius seems to be an average or even above average genius. Now Wu Xi's power is really picking up. A treasure trove. No, we should go there and poach people. This talent is like a pearl in Wu Xi's power. He will definitely plunder natural resources. It will not only harm this talent, but also slow down the growth of a supposedly powerful being in our 215th sector. So we're going to go poach. The top experts and ordinary beings were all shocked by Jia Yan, a genius who had won 2 games in a row among the top 10. And their shock was not over yet. Because, Jia Yan's goal is to be number 1, reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 843. This genius battle continues one after another. And each of the spectators, as well as the half-star commentator on the stage, slowly felt a strange meaning. The reason is nothing else. It was the newcomer and the strongest dark horse who was underestimated every time after fighting, but still steadily won all the battles, Jia Yan. This Jia Yan is incredible. It's too exaggerated. This is already the 3rd day of the top 10 competition. Jia Yan's victory has reached the 7th game and he has not lost a single game yet. There is only one strong man like him, and that is the strong man with the sickle in his arm who fought the black bear strong man before. This time, Jia Yan versus Shizukan, come on. When the commentator in the field, that is, the semi-star level expert, called out his name, both the audience and the players in the field looked at a certain direction in the queue of players with strange eyes. That is the direction of the Wu Ci force. Originally, every time this force participated in this kind of genius battle, it was just for fun as a foil, but this time it actually attracted so much attention. The biological experts in the entire Wu Ci force were not too shocked at this moment, because they were also a little numb. When they heard the commentator shouting Jia Yan's name, they all looked a little dull. Looking towards the back of their queue. That's where Jia Yan is. Hearing his name, the big mosquito moved slightly. Then he crawled lazily. The big mosquito's eyes are now filled with a terrifying aura. In other words, this kind of aura has existed from the beginning, but as a newcomer, even if others saw his aura, they ignored it. But now his record and his ability to defeat the stronger ones every time have made others pay attention to his momentum. The presence of venerable figures from Wu Ci's forces made way for Jia Yan. Jia Yan slowly walked into the battle circle. He can't even hear Naba Wangfu's voice now. Because the other party is now a little shocked by Jia Yan, and he feels that his past is a joke to Jia Yan now. This big mosquito is so scary. Just let him strive for the top 40, but what is the result? Not only did he advance into the top 20, but he also entered the top 10 among the supreme geniuses in the entire sector. After reaching the top 10, the newcomer's ferocious appearance seemed to really appear in the eyes of the powerful. He actually won all the way, reaching the 7th game of the top 10 games without losing a game. In this case, what else can Bai Wangfu, who once asked Jia Yan to get 40, say? Come on? Let him finish 40th. Funny. So Jia Yan didn't get any cheers from anyone this time, but he didn't care either. His opponent was a large flying monster that looked somewhat similar to Jia Yan, and his front feet also evolved to look sharp. Jia Yan is familiar with this existence. He is another venerable level powerhouse besides Jia Yan who has also maintained a complete victory. In the eyes of others, their duel was a battle of planetary collisions. Jia Yan, you, a newcomer, have gone too far. Now it's time for you to stop. The other party spoke to Jia Yan indifferently. Really? Several strong men have told me this before, but they are the ones who fail every time. Jia Yan shook his head, not wanting to respond to such a provocation. Haha, am I the same as them? Ridiculous. The flying monster looked a little angry at Jia Yan's words, because Jia Yan's words meant that he was treated as the same existence as the previous strong man. And he should be one of the top 3 powerful people, one who can even compete for the first place, like the other top 10 powerful people? Jia Yan stopped talking. He had killed several arrogant sages, and now this strong man was destined to be no exception and would soon fall at his feet. The previous incident of a distinguished man breaking into the battle circle made Jia Yan a little wary. Although he knew that this genius battle was officially supported by the genius battlefield, no one said that people could not retaliate afterwards. Jia Yan was in Wuxi's power is very weak. If someone with a semi-star level really comes to cause trouble, he might not be able to be safe. So now he fights against the top 10 strong men without killing anyone. Start. As the half-star level commentator on the stage gave the order to fight, the flying monster Jia Yan face suddenly moved. Die. The other party had no intention of keeping Jia Yan alive. In one blow, the power used was absolutely unrelenting. Although he looked down upon Jia Yan's status as a newcomer, his strength had been recognized by other strong men in the previous battles, so there was no possibility for this flying monster strongman to hold back. He thrust in with one blow, and it seemed that with one blow, the whole world tightened for an instant. Jia Yan felt that his body collapsed for a second. He lost more than half of his speed in an instant. As expected, he is worthy of being one of the 3 great sages. His strength is much stronger than the strong men we encountered before. But after a flash of light in Jia Yan's eyes, his body slowly turned into nothingness. The opponent's attack landed where Jia Yan was, but there was no surprise on his face. It's another damn space talent. This Jia Yan's space talent is much more powerful than the average venerable genius. Maybe he has an extremely terrifying inheritance. This powerful flying man already had some understanding of Jia Yan's strength in the previous battles. Especially the space talent ability displayed by Jia Yan was also a very troublesome ability for him. While he was thinking in his mind, a front foot stretched out from behind the strong man. Silently, even as fast as lightning. I've been waiting for you. The flying monster shouted loudly just a thousandth of a second before Jia Yan's front foot attacked him. Then one of his hind feet seemed to be able to turn, and it shot out directly. When the strength among the strong reaches a strong level, as long as it is not overwhelmingly strong, it is made up for by small skills and combat experience. And this flying monster has both. Jia Yan, who was using 35% of his strength, did not expect the opponent's move at all. When he saw the sudden thrust of his hind foot, his expression changed, and his strength suddenly increased. 40% strength. Contestant Jia Yan broke out again. There is no limit to his strength. But with each burst, his strength improved by leaps and bounds, and he could barely escape the counter-attack from player Shizukan. This time it was really a fight between dragons and tigers, exciting. The half-star level commentator still didn't notice that Jia Yan was hiding his strength. In other words, no one in the entire spectator field seemed to have noticed that Jia Yan, the new dark horse, was still hiding his strength. That's all. In other words, Jia Yan's hidden strength can be regarded as one of a kind. Puff! A terrifying explosion sounded in the air, and the flying monster's back foot shot directly at Jia Yan's side. This move is interesting. Did you deliberately lead me into the subspace before to wait for an opportunity to counterattack? He is indeed a being with a lot of combat experience. When Jia Yan saw this blow, his eyes flashed again, and he remembered the usage and method of this move deeply in his heart. Although it may not be used in the future, being unpaid is not a good battle lesson. Jia Yan's front foot followed the flying monster's rear foot and shot once, then he stabbed out looking for an opportunity, while the opponent suddenly bounced and was not affected by the previous missed blow. This time, it seemed that it was really a tit-for-tat confrontation, and the two sides were fighting extremely fiercely. But Jia Yan's strength is not really so unbearable. Especially in a protracted battle, his physical strength is extremely exaggerated. When the opponent's physical strength gradually loses, his advantage comes. Puff. When Jia Yan pierced the opponent's hind foot with one blow, and stretched out the other front foot gently, trying to target the opponent's vital points. I surrender. The flying monster under control quickly sent a signal to surrender. Well, this time it was actually Jia Yan, the super dark horse, who won this game. Jia Yan, let us remember this name. As long as he wins one more game, go to Shiyuan and he will get the honorable person today. He will win all the top 10 battles, and he will also become the first newcomer in the 215th sector to get the first place in the venerable field just after joining. He must be an above-average genius, and may even stay in the genius battlefield in the future with his name. Let us cheer for the emergence of such a genius in this sector. But if he wants to win the championship, he still has to pass a hurdle, and that is the strongest genius of the last Northlands force in this district. See I wrong? Who is the strongest venerable? Let us wait until the finals, only now can we see the end. Those half-star commentators didn't even know what they were talking about. They obviously hated Jia Yan to death, but they actually saw him win every battle, and now he was actually Jia Yan. Cheers. You must know that it is definitely not that simple for a newcomer to do such a thing. Especially in remote star areas where there are no powerful newcomers, such a genius is hard to find. Jia Yan was able to reach this point as soon as he appeared. Even though he was a half-star star from other forces, he was also a 215-star star. District and happy. Of course, if there is strife between forces in the future, he will still take action against Jia Yan. After all, one code will lead to another. Jia Yan enjoyed the cheers and stepped down. What he faced was a genius from the Wu Ci force who stared at him as if he had lost his soul. Please give way. Jia Yan came to the outside of the passage, and his path was blocked by a venerable man. When the other party saw Jia Yan coming, he didn't react at all. He just looked at Jia Yan blankly, as if he had been hit. Fixation method. After hearing Jia Yan's voice, the venerable man seemed to come back to his senses and quickly made way for a seat. Please come in, I'm sorry, Master Jia Yan, he apologized loudly and nervously.